Hello. This is not Between the Pages book chat. This is just me coming at you live today for my annual weird holiday parody stuff. I usually do this as a written post on my blog or my website, but this year I'm going to do it live as a reading. And past years I've done the 12 Days of Christmas. If anyone has followed my blog, they know I did the 12 Days of Geekness. A couple years ago, I did 12 Days of Indie on my website. But this year, we're doing something a little different with Twas the Night Before Indie, as it's a parody of Twas the Night Before Christmas. So, and I may also do a partial reading of my story, The Reindeer Solution, after this is over. So I hope you enjoy the readings. And we're going to get right into it here. I'm reading this off a little paper. Ooh, the light. So anyway, this is called "Twas the Night Before Indie," and here we go. "'Twas the night before holidays, and all through the house every creature was stirring, even the mouse. The stockings were stuffed with books to compare, in hopes that readers would soon be there. The writers were planning and plotting out threads, while visions of characters danced in our heads. I was busy a-scribbling, creating the death trap, while dreaming in vain of a long winter's nap. When inside the laptop arose such a clatter, I sprang to my feet to flee or to scatter. Up from the screen he rose like a flash, a very strange muse, all frills and moustache. He yelled a great noise, a sizable bellow, and danced all around, a very strange fellow. I've come bearing gifts. What? I'm not telling. I scowled most fiercely. What was he selling? This isn't a scam. This isn't a trick. And I'm so much better than Jolly St. Nick. With a flick of his hat, inspiration it came, as he danced and he shouted and called me by name. Now dash to the laptop, prance to the prose, a blitz of the typing before you can doze, to the end of the chapter and on to the next, as fast as you can without the spell checks. As if possessed by a wild hurricane tide, writing their fates of who lived and who died. And all through the night my fingers they flew, with heroes and villains, and the chosen one too. And then in a twinkling, with dawn ever coming, the book it took shape, the words were a-humming. As I drew near the close, the finale in sight, through the window it came, the morning's first light. My muse sprang away in the twinkle of sun. Your book is now finished, my work here is done. With a tip of his hat he bounced like a ball, disappeared and exclaimed, Merry Christmas to all. Okay, so that was my weird rendition of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm going to do little bits of rambling here now, as I promised in the description. And I'm going to give you a couple updates of what I've been up to. As you know, I've done the NaNoWriMo thing in November, and I finished the first draft of Fairy Tales and Nightmares. That will be, I'll start editing that probably in January, February, somewhere around there. And I've started editing the first Hayward and Anderson story, which is basically paranormal detective parody of Sherlock Holmes sort of thing. And so hopefully I'll be finished the editing by January. And I'm going to test out Story Origins beta reader program and set it up in January for people who want to beta read it after I get it edited. And I've also, in November, I started writing the second Hayward and Anderson story. The third Hayward and Anderson story is actually finished, because that's actually the first one I wrote way, way back there in the years past for an anthology that never actually came to pass. So that's how that particular series got started. So that one I'll finish up next year as well, and hopefully have all 3 stories published next year. And next year I'll also be editing my Shadows of the Dead horror novella. It's kind of a Victorian Gothic thing. And as I mentioned on one of Joe Compton's shows, that it has love triangles. The love triangle is between a woman, a man, and a demon, but it is a love triangle. So I'm trying something new with that one. And I also started the second book in that series called, is it Shadows and Indiscretions, I think? Or Indiscretions and Shadows. I'm not sure which way I had it round. But anyway, and that one's going to be an interesting thing. Again, with the love triangles, only this is between a guy, and a demon. So that should be fun too. So that's basically what's planned for next year. The 2 horror novellas, the short story series, and fairy tales and nightmares. So I'll be busy all year writing, hopefully, and editing. I haven't got any new books other than that on the calendar yet, although I have been playing around with a kind of a horror fantasy book. Well, basically, it's about a necropolis city and a god of death. So I don't know, that one may come out next year too. It won't be published next year, but I may work on it next year. And of course, I have the ever in need of work historical fantasy series, my Obsidian Blade series. I still have to figure out the middle on that because apparently my notes were not very complete. So I need to figure out some plot points in that one. So I'll be working on that next year too. But that probably won't be published until 2023, most likely. Maybe I'll get lucky and it'll be published sooner. But anyway, I need some water because my throat gets dry every time I start talking for some reason. Probably because I live alone and I don't have anyone to talk to, so it's not used to it. So we'll get into the second story now. And I'm going to read you a little bit of the Reindeer Solution, which has been published in Christmas Lights 9, I think it was. So you can check the story out in that book. It's a charity anthology for a good cause. So, and this basically is North Pole, war at the North Pole between the elves and the reindeer. And so we'll start and we'll begin. It began with Rudolph, or more accurately, his ego. Stupid, puffed up reindeer, Fenn grumbled. Puts on airs, he does, with his, "Oh, I'm a star. I only eat organically grown corn feed. Only the best quality magic additives on for me. I have to soar, malarkey. Doesn't even think of the extra work he gives us. I'm Santa's head elf. I have better things to do than cater to Rudolph. I should be organizing the work schedule for the holiday season, not playing errand elf." He stacked the last imported feed bag in the barn with an angry shove. "But, sir," Jingles, Ben's assistant, replied, "he is a star, isn't he? A glorified headlight, more like. He's always been full of himself. Why do you think they wouldn't let him play in those reindeer games as a young calf? Rudolph tried to boss everyone around and take over, even throwing tantrums if he didn't get his own way. He was the bully." Ben shook his head, disgust on his face. "Santa shouldn't indulge his whims. It's creating resentment with the rest of the herds. I receive complaints every day about Rudolph's behavior, and there's nothing I can do about it." Fenn ground his teeth. "I mean, look at this." He waved his hand at the specialty feed bags. "And there are kegs of his imported mountain spring mineral water in the next storage shed. Do you know how much all this costs?" Jingles shook his head hard enough to make his hat bells ring. "Too much, that's what. And it all comes out of the maintenance budget. We had to slash the perks for all the other reindeer to help pay for it. They won't be pleased with that, I can tell you. And who'll be blamed? The elves. Once this breaks, those deer will be lined up to air their grievances. Fenn slammed his fist against a bag. I don't need more whining. I hear enough grumbling from them now that they have now about having their candy supply cut last month. You know they threatened to storm the confectioner's shop. Jingles shook his head. That's not nice, and I don't think Santa would approve. He's still mad about their dental bills. They were naughty reindeer not brushing their teeth. More trouble than they're worth. Fenn glared at Rudolph's stash. You wait and see. These cost-cutting measures will be all about them. We're suffering too. We lost half our coffee budget, and the new seasonal uniforms were canceled. No ultra plush red velvet for us, no sir. Not when Rudolph has to eat organic food. It's outrageous. That dratted deer is out of control. When Fenn took a breath, he noticed Jingles staring at him, his mouth agape. Fenn frowned. What? They cut the coffee budget? Jingles whimpered. Does that mean no more crullers? What about the peppermint mocha cappuccinos? I'm sorry, but we're down to plain roast. Not even hazelnut flavor. And a generic brand, too. Snacks are out. No crullers, no honey glazed chocolate or cream-filled donuts, and no lemon bars. No, Jingles wailed. Not the lemon bars. He flopped down on the dusty floor and stared at the walls. Fenn shifted his weight, shuffling his feet. I'm sorry. I don't like it either. Jingles sniffled. Rudolph is mean. Then, from somewhere, a clock struck 9 and Jingles jumped to his feet, bouncing up and down. It's time! It's time! Can I go? Can I go? It's time for the Weather Warriors cartoon. Fenn sighed. I don't know what you see in that show. Really? The Thunder Penguin is the best. I was so happy to work on his toy for this year's new line. Can I go watch, please? Jingles looked at him, his eyes wide and pleading. Fenn smiled. All right. We're done here anyway. Yippee! Jingles scurried off to the TV room. Fenn watched him go with a shake of his head. Okay, take a little water break here. Fenn glared at Ralph the reindeer. I don't care what you heard. We don't have a hoard of cashmere blankets in storage. Not for you or any reindeer. And no, Comet didn't get a big screen TV from us. If he has one, he got it on his own. That's not the scuttlebutt going around the herds. Ralph pawed at the ground and tossed his head. Everybody knows you've been holding out on us, stocking up on the goodies, doling them out for favors. I just want in on the racket to get my piece of the stash. There isn't any racket. There isn't any stash. Fenn threw up his hands and gave Ralph his best scowl. He pointed to the path. Go home and tell the rest of the reindeer there's no budget for perks. Ralph pawed at the ground and snorted, but turned and left. Fenn was still scowling when 3 more elves, Rumplehat, Shimmers, and Hollybow, wandered over. Rumplehat waved and asked, What's wrong? It's those tinsel-eared deer. I don't know what's gotten into them today, but half a dozen of them have been up to the workshop demanding crazy perks, saying we've been stockpiling goods in storage. They've been driving me batty all day. Rumplehat frowned. That's ridiculous. I guess they haven't heard that the budget cuts are affecting everyone. They will soon enough, and it serves them right, Hollybow chimed in, her expression one of disgust. They did nothing to rein in Rudolph and his attitude. Only fair they should suffer with the rest of us. Hear, hear, added Shimmers. Maybe they'll do something if they take a hit this time. Ben snorted. Don't count on it. They'll blame us. I'm sure Santa will sort it out when he gets back from vacation. Rumplehat wrung his hands and scuffed a toe in the layer of snow still on the shoveled path. Why don't we all go in and relax? The other 3 rolled their eyes at Rumplehat, but followed him inside to the workshop foyer. Sounds of working elves echoed out of the toy assembly floor, with the thump of hammers, the whir of saws, the hum of sewing machines, and the clank of the 3D printers. Ben smiled at the familiar noises and took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of paint, turpentine, and pine. The annoyance of the reindeer problems faded. "Shall we go check on lunch?" Holly Bow asked. "I think it's veggie tacos today." "Ooh, I love veggie tacos." Jingles bounced out of the TV room and scurried over to the quartet. Ben smiled. "You all go ahead. I have to pick up a copy of the candy inventory report first. I'll see you in the lunchroom." Shimmers, Rumplehat, and Holly Bow waved goodbye and headed to the elf cafeteria, but Jingles remained with Fen. "You're not going to lunch?" Jingles shook his head. "I'll come with you to see the candy, then tacos." Fen grinned. "You just want to see if Hazel Plum has any more truffle samples you can wheedle off her." Jingles gave a sheepish smile and nodded. Fen chuckled. "Come on, then." The pair walked downstairs and made their way to the underground confectioner's room. When they arrived, the great metal door was ajar. Shadows moved inside the room, and they heard fast-moving thumps and a banging noise. They rushed forward, pushing the door open wider, and dashed into the workshop. A catastrophic sight, that's as close as I'm getting, unfolded in front of their eyes with broken shelves, crushed chocolate boxes, and a floor littered with chewed candy cane bits. Eerie silence shrouded them, without a sight or sound of the elves who worked there. Fen moved through the debris, seeing the signs of hoof marks and impressions of teeth left in the half-eaten candy. Written on a wall in chocolate were the words, "No more holding out," scrawled underneath a crude picture of antlers. "Those flock-branched reindeer!" Fen curled his fingers into fists. "They've gone too far this time." His cry echoed against the walls, followed by the sound of Jingles whimpering, and then a faint moan. Fen glanced at Jingles, who went silent and shook his head. Another moan sounded from the left, coming from behind a crate sitting near the kitchens. Fen moved toward the sound as Jingles crept on tiptoe beside him. The pair inched forward until they saw a figure lying on the ground. "Hazel Plum!" Fen and Jingles sprinted over and knelt down by the fallen elf. Jingles patted her hand while Fen helped her sit up. There was a bruise on her forehead, but no sign of any other injury. "What happened?" Fen asked. Hazel Plum turned to him, a wild look in her eyes. "I tried to stop them, but there were too many. All hooves and antlers, eating the candy, smashing the boxes, trampling all my beautiful creations underfoot. It was awful." She shuddered. Fen clenched his jaw. "How did they get in?" "Through the loading tunnel. I think they waited until the staff went to lunch. They rushed in and jumped the conveyor belt into boxing and storage. I just left the kitchens and I saw it all." Hazel Plum shuddered again. "Like greedy, antlered piranha they were, nibbling and chewing. Destructive little donut holes, the lot of those tinsel-tailed reindeer." "Why would they do this?" Fen shook his head. "Blitzen made threats to steal candy, but actually raiding the workshop. I can't believe they went this far." "Well, believe it," Hazel Plum snapped. "And you must do something about it. This outrage cannot go unanswered." Fen squared his shoulders. "I know." And another water break. Oops. Almost spilled it there. News of the candy raid spread fast, and Fen called an official meeting of the Elf Guild. Dozens of outraged elves gathered in the workshop to vent their anger, and the discussion quickly turned into a heated debate with shouts skimming to the rafters. "Outrageous! Unacceptable! Something must be done! What can we do? Call Santa! He must intervene!" Santa will help." "We don't need Santa. We elves must strike back. Down with the reindeer." Hearing the divided voices, Fen leapt up on a workbench and shouted over the din. "Enough!" The room quieted. "I know some of you don't want to act, want to let Santa handle it, yet Santa always sided with the reindeer." Gasps and murmurs rose from his audience. "You know it's true." Santa has always had a soft spot for those deer. He heard whispers of agreement and saw nods as his words swayed the crowd. The workshop is our domain. We have a right to protect it. I say it's time to fight back. Not only against Rudolph and his stupid demands, but against all the reindeer. If we don't, they will continue to wreak havoc and trample over us. The elves need to show those deer who's in charge. A chorus of cheers sounded, followed by a lone dissenting voice. We can't risk it. Santa won't approve. Rumple Hat squealed. He twisted his cap and scuffed his toe. I don't like what they did either, but Santa will get mad if we do anything. You know he will. We could all get sacked. The mood shifted with anxious murmurs and nods for Rumple Hat. Fen scowled. Santa's not here. He doesn't know what's happening. And if we don't act, what will they do next? Suddenly the doors burst open, interrupting everything, and a distraught elf carrying something in her arms rushed forward. It's happened again! More carnage! Those horrid reindeer attacked the stuffed toy storage! So many mangled toys! Look what they did! She held out the remains of a plush penguin, clutching a torn lightning bolt, its stuffing oozing from a slashed belly. A scream shattered the fraying nerves of the gathered elves, and another figure rushed to snatch the toy from the hands of the messenger. Jingles fell to his knees, hugging the destroyed toy to his chest. Why? Why did it have to be you? Not Thunder Penguin? Sobbing, Jingles cradled the broken remains. Such a brave warrior, cut down so brutally. Looking up at Fen, his eyes full of tears, Jingles squared his shoulders. The reindeer have gone too far this time. The mood of the crowd surged in anger, every heart hurting and every eye on Jingles. He wiped away his tears, still staring at Fen. Candy is one thing, but messing with our toys, it cannot be ignored. Jingles stood and raised the ravaged remnants of the penguin above his head. This means war. The Thunder Penguin must be avenged. The tension in the room erupted into cheers and cries of war, war, echoed off the rafters. Fen lifted his chin, a surge of pride swelling in his heart for his elves. He shouted, those reindeer won't know what hit them. Report. The messenger quaked under Fen's stern gaze, but blurted. They took out the front line barricade, sir. The elf and the shelf brigade is gone. They went down under enemy hooves. The elf shuddered. It was horrible, sir. Those poor. It was horrible. Christmas balls! Fen swore and then sighed, his shoulders slumping. Uncertain he wanted the answer, he asked, what about the pine tree barricade? Did it hold? Please let it have held. Please let this one thing have gone right. The messenger nodded. Yes, sir. Those manning that line held steady. The 5th floor elf platoon brought those reindeer out of the sky with their surface-to-air beanbag launchers. Plus the dear ground troops got tangled in the defensive strings of Christmas lights. They've retreated for now. Fen gave another sigh. At least that's something. How's morale out there? Low, sir, low. The failure of the licorice assault demoralized everyone. And now losing the front lines, well, the fight has gone out of them. I don't know how much longer we can hold the enemy off. Fen exhaled and lowered his head. I don't blame them for feeling defeated. It wasn't supposed to go this way. We had the numbers, the superior weapons. The reindeer weren't supposed to gain the advantage. What have I done? What if we lose? Sir, what do we do? Do we fight or give in? Fen looked at the elf, at all the elves, their anxious faces looking to him for guidance. Too much is at stake. We have to go all in. I can't let them down. Fen tightened his jaw and straightened his shoulders. You go back out there and tell them help is coming. We're elves, flock it, and we won't lose to a bunch of one-night flight jockey reindeer. I didn't want it to come to this, but the enemy has left us no choice. You tell our troops I'm breaking out the big guns. It's time to use the glitter bombs. Collected gas rang through around the headquarters, but the messenger elf snapped his heels and gave Fen a smart salute. Yes, sir. That'll rouse the men. I can't wait to see those deer painted in glitter up to their posteriors and choking on the stuff. Fen smiled. We'll flock every last one of those reindeer. Cheers echoed across the foyer. Fen climbed the stairs to the roof balcony, to where the elves had mounted the specialty air cannons. The elven artillery troop saluted him as he arrived. How close are you to being ready to fire the barrage? The glitter ornaments are stockpiled and waiting to be loaded, sir. We've worked out the trajectory, and the last tweaks to the guns are being finalized as we speak. We should be able to dust their front lines in under 10 minutes. Excellent. I want a steady bombardment. Shower them with glitter and drive them back into the woods so our teams can advance. Oh, we will, sir. We dug the heavy-duty gold and purple glitter out of storage. That stuff is guaranteed to man up their fur and stick everywhere. It should even get into their noses and make them sneeze like the dickens. Fen chuckled. That's perfect. I'll send you the signal when we're ready to attack. He gave a nod and headed back downstairs. As he reached the bottom, he saw Jingles coming up out of the elven changing room. What in all the 7 colors of the rainbow are you wearing? Fen stared at Jingles' bizarre outfit, a black and white penguin suit with a red cape and a red circle on his chest. On his head was a feathered headdress, and he carried what looked like a large green squirt gun. It's the official costume of the Thunder Penguin. I found it in storage. Except this. He waggled the gun. This is to take out those evil reindeer. Jingles narrowed his eyes and tried to scowl in a menacing manner. It came off more as a constipated expression. Fen sighed. I'm not sure a water gun will be all that effective. Oh no, it's been modified to shoot jelly beans. I call it my lime legume launcher. And what do you plan to do with that? I've joined one of the advancing forces, the Candy Brigade. We'll give those reindeer what for and send them back to the tundra. Jingles waved a flippered fist in the air. They'll eat jelly beans by the end of the day. Nobody destroys my Thunder Penguin toy and gets away with it. Fen gaped and watched Jingles stride off to take his place on the front lines. Unease swirled in the back of his mind, mixing with memories of broken candy and mangled toys. How did it come to this? Even Jingles, the sweetest elf I know, is out for blood. But we have a right to defend ourselves, don't we? We can't keep giving in to those reindeer. Sometimes you have to fight and flock the consequences. With a sigh, he hurried after Jingles to check on the troops. The assembled strike forces waited at the pine tree barricades, anxious for orders. Fen peered over the branches to see lines of snorting deer at the far end of the snowy meadow, pawing at the frozen ground. He gulped and took a breath, climbing back down to face his elves. We can do this. We need to stand up for ourselves. Fen surveyed the troops, hands behind his back. He walked the lines, nodding at the 1st Infantry units, the Stalking Squad, the Silver Bell Platoon, the Caroling Corps. He moved down the ranks, studying the other units, the 5th Floor Elf Platoon, the Ribbons Regiment, the Buttons and Bows Battalion, and the newly formed Candy Brigade. Finally, he inspected the 2 airborne units, the remote-controlled Cookie Battalions. Satisfied, he returned to the front to address his army. This is our last stand, the big push to send those interfering reindeer a message they won't forget. This is our chance to show those pompous garland glory hogs what elves are made of. A cheer rose in the ranks. The first assault will be the glitter bombardment, and I want the 5th Floor Elf Platoon and the remote control Cookie Battalions providing additional air and artillery strikes. We want to drive the enemy forces into retreat. Then the rest of you elves attack in full force and clear out any resistance. Fenn squared his shoulders and stared at his troops. Any questions? A shout of "No, sir," washed over Fenn, and he puffed out his chest in pride. He pulled a walkie-talkie off his belt and gave the order to the bombardiers upstairs. Fire the glitter! A huge thwomp sounded, followed by a loud whoosh, and the elves watched half a dozen glitter-filled plastic torpedoes shoot through the air and detonate over the reindeer in a shower of sparkles. The air filled with screams. Not the glitter! Stars and sleigh bells, have mercy! Another round of bombs chased the first, and Fenn gave the signal to the Elven Air Corps to let loose their drones and the fifth-floor platoon to launch their beanbags. Soon the air over the reindeer's position flowed with shiny tinsel rain, flying beanbags, and a shower of falling fruitcake and burnt cookies. Enemy shrieks echoed across the field. Retreat! Retreat! They're using fruitcake! When the fog of sweets and glitter cleared and the whirl of the remote-controlled drones faded, the elves stared across the battlefield to the enemy withdrawing through squashed cake and crumbs, trailing a pastel line of twinkly litter in their wake. Only a small force held their ground, peppered in shiny purple, gold, and neon green. From the front lines, Fenn shouted, "Attack!" and his army stormed over the barricades and across the field. Seconds later, the reindeer barreled forward. Jingles led the elven charge, screaming, "For Thunder Penguin!" spraying the advancing deer with a barrage of jelly beans. More spurts of candy, as well as beanbags, sponge balls, and plastic darts, sped through the air from the guns of the troops with a steady pop, pop, pop sound, and the deer went down in the tangle of well-aimed shots and unsteady footing. Hooves rolled on jelly beans and darts, antlers were mired in gummy bears, and the frost-covered meadow echoed in the cries of, "Ow, ow, my eye!" The elves swarmed the fallen enemy, and within minutes surrounded the remaining reindeer. They established a perimeter around their adversaries, weapons brandished. Jingles took a step forward, waggling his gun. "Surrender or eat jelly beans." Blitzen lifted his head, one eye swelling, and snorted a gummy bear from his nose. "Never, we will. Wait, is that a thunder penguin costume?" Blitzen squealed and staggered to his feet. "It is! Oh, my stars, where did you get that? I adore it. Did you make it? The Weather Warriors is the best show. My favorite is Ninja the Frost Bear. She's so cool." Taken aback, Jingles lowered his weapon. His lip quivered. "How can you say that? After what you did? No true fan would have destroyed Thunder Penguin's toy. Not to mention all the other wondrous toys you reindeer ruined." Blitzen gasped. "Hey now, we never destroyed any toys. Sure, we got a bit rambunctious and raided the confectioner's workshop, but toy wrecking? No way!" The reindeer snorted, outraged. "And you guys had the candy raid coming." Jingles raised his weapon. "There's a shredded thunder penguin that begs to differ." "We didn't ruin any toys," Blitzen barked, and more denials echoed from the other prisoners. "Lies!" shouted Jingle. "I ought to." "Hold on." Fenn dashed forward, interrupting. "If you deer didn't destroy the toys, then who did? And what do you mean we had it coming?" "For bad talking us to Santa and holding our perks out of spite," Blitzen retorted. "We know what you've been up to, trying to take control of reindeer operations. For all we know, you destroyed the toys to frame us." It was the elves' turn to gasp. Fenn straightened his spine and looked up at Blitzen. "We would never hurt toys. We have proof reindeer attacked the plush toy storage. You left teeth and hoof marks all over the shredded batch." "Oh my." A tiny voice sounded, and Vixen slowly stood up, shaking her head. "Rudolph. Rudolph and his new friend Ralph, plus some young calves. I saw them headed in that direction just before the war started. She snorted and stamped her hoof. I bet he did it, just to stir up trouble. Well, sleigh bells, Blitzen hissed. Rudolph's the one that told me about the elves' plan to turn Santa against us. And Ralph said you were hoarding our perks. They lied, didn't they? Fen nodded, realization dawning. I think we've all been hoodwinked. Blitzen pawed the ground, his expression turning guilty. Then this whole war was for nothing. The elves weren't out to sideline us. As he shook his head, Fen's stomach felt queasy. He looked over at the candy-strewn battlefield and the injured reindeer, regret nibbling at him. Then Jingles nudged him. Did we all just become friends again? Fen gulped. I think we did. Yeah. Blitzen held out a hoof in gesture of truce. Friends. Fen shook the reindeer's hoof, relieved. He let out a sigh. What now? Blitzen shrugged. Clean up the mess, I guess. Tend to the injuries. But we must do something about Rudolph. Look at the trouble he caused. Blitzen lowered his head and pawed on the ground. We can't let him continue making mischief. I say we fire up the barbecue! Jingle's exclamation drew horrified gasps from the other reindeer. A puzzled expression blossomed over his face. What? We have a cookout and don't invite him. That will show him. A whoosh of collected sighs sounded and all the reindeer relaxed. Fen smiled. That's an idea, Jingles, but I may have a better one. What are you doing with all my stuff? Fen smiled at Rudolph's outrage as he watched the home gym and the entertainment room being partially dismantled from the barn. He walked over to the angry reindeer. It's being reappropriated. Some equipment will stay to create a relaxation and exercise center for everyone, and the rest is being sold off to reimburse the budget. In addition, your special feed and water will be communal from now on. Rudolph whirled on Fen, lowering his head and snorting in his face. You can't do that. Santa won't like it. Santa won't like the fact you spread lies among the reindeer and raided toy storage to destroy inventory either. Rudolph took a step back, surprised. Yes, we know all about that. Your friend Ralph ratted you out. Seems he didn't enjoy being lied to any more than the rest of your fellow reindeer. Fen straightened his spine and scowled. It's the end of the line for your cushy lifestyle, dear. No more extra perks for you, or Santa gets the full scoop on the trouble you've caused and why. A gasp from Rudolph made Fen chuckle. Ralph told us that, too. How you wanted Blitzen's title as Deer Commander. Tried to stir up trouble, get him reported to Santa. But it's all gotten out of hand, didn't it? How do you think Santa will react when it all comes out? How you've been creating a rift between the elves and the reindeer for months, on purpose. I didn't. I never. Rudolph's lame protest fell short as Fen laughed in his face. Save it, dear. Nobody's buying the act anymore. It's a done deal, Rudolph. The free ride is over. Either accept it or take the consequences when we tell Santa. Rudolph stared down Fen, his reindeer lips forming a scowl. Fen smiled, raised a hand, and gave a prearranged signal. Jingles casually strolled over, carrying his lime legume launcher. Rudolph turned. Who are you? And what in the name of Christmas stockings are you wearing? Jingles raised his gun. You killed Thunder, Penguin. A spray of jelly beans hit Rudolph smack dab in his red nose, a yellow one lodging up his right nostril. Ow, ow, ow! Blaring snorts and sneezes followed as Rudolph danced and pawed at his nose, trying to dislodge the candy. Fen and Jingles moved back as his antics got more frantic, his head tossing wildly. He gave one last whine and cried, This isn't over, before turning and running for the barn door. Fen doubled over laughing as Rudolph fled. Priceless. That dear got what was coming to him. Do you think he'll make more trouble? Fen shook his head. Everyone's against him now, and he's too afraid of Santa. Good. He's a mean dear. He doesn't deserve nice perks. Well, he won't have them any more. Fen smiled. Come on. Blitzen's brought over some DVDs of the Weather Warriors. Why don't you show me what's so great about this show? Hurrah! You will love it. Thunder Penguin is the best. Jingles raced off towards the TV room, Fen following. And that was The Reindeer Solution. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Sorry about the stumbles and the mispronunciations, but that's how it goes sometimes. So, everyone, I hope everyone has a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year to you all. And that's it for today's readings. So, bye for now.